Appreciate your time. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys, for inviting us here, for allowing us to share our ideas and projects with you guys. So I'm Mick. I'm a sort of user researcher, sort of product designer, working in the space. We have with me as well Stelios. He is a data scientist based in Amsterdam, who's been working on the project as well. What we're talking about today is a very, I think, I like to say it's a humble, simple, but hopefully useful project in the Bitcoin ecosystem. It's called Geyser. And the idea is really trying to solve a very simple problem, which is enabling, well, the problem being making it very, very easy to send very, very small amounts of money to a project, to an idea. And therefore, we're talking really about crowdfunding. And the solution we have in mind is really enabling micro crowdfunding, right? So enabling microtransaction for funding projects. And there are two ways that we're thinking of doing that, right? The first thing is using the Lightning Network as a very effective way to send very, very small amounts of money for very, very little and very, very low fees, and instantly, in ways that are also highly programmable for us to send funds back and forth depending on particular conditions, and also globally scalable. Like we can launch anywhere in the world with no need to open a bank account in 200 different countries. So obviously the appeal is massive to use a Lightning Network. Secondly, how we plan to do that is by really leveraging social networks and leveraging the network effects that are enabled by social networks, in particular Twitter. In fact, the idea sort of came to mind when I was on Twitter and I'm seeing all these really brilliant minds talking, having these ideas, and I thought, like, I want to fund this idea, but I can't, right? There's no address attached to that tweet. And so I thought, why not leverage the power and influence of Twitter, especially within the Bitcoin ecosystem as well, to enable creators project owners, to kind of fund the tweet, right? So obviously, I will dive into the UIs right away, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of context. And so really what you have is a crowdfunding project, that crowdfunding platform that leverages the Lightning Network and at the same time is attached to the Twitter ecosystem in order to leverage those network effects, in tying identities to funding amounts potentially. We do want to enable, and we do believe in the Bitcoin ethos of anonymity and pseudonymity. At the same time, there are so many. Twitter is such an important social layer of this community, and therefore we thought, like, why not leveraging that? And as the sort of MVP, we are thinking, Bitcoin community, but obviously we do want to think about expanding this platform into use cases beyond the Bitcoin community, of course. So before I sort of go ahead, Stelios, if you have anything to add, or if any of you guys have any questions. If not, I can sort of go into it. I appreciate it. It's a little bit abstract at the moment, so let me sort of deep dive. So screen share. All right. So this is the basic UI for a specific project on Geyser. So what you're seeing here is a project page that is associated to a tweet here. The project owner, that is the person who has sent the tweet and owns the project. An ambassador who may be sponsoring the project, who will be supporting the project, endorsing it. More description about the project, and profile photos associated to the project, again, to provide insights. And then what you have are more sort of like visual interface of like how much has been funded in Satoshis, the goal amount in Satoshis and in dollar, and the ability to fund the project, share it with friends, and the list of people who have backed the project. What you see here as well are the names of the people who've funded it and their Twitter account that has been linked to it, and the badges, right? So this is a creator. The creator is potentially anyone, right? So the idea is that anyone can create a project, and by create a project, you just take a tweet and you put it up in the platform. But then the owner needs to accept the project. They will be pending until the project has been accepted. So you will have a creator, you will have then funders of different amounts with different badges associated to the amounts that has been sent. And you obviously have Satoshi, who are the people who are funding anonymously, right? So leveraging the Bitcoin tweet meme of everyone is Satoshi, right? So if you fund anonymously, you are Satoshi. This is really like the very basic, you might, if you're coming from Twitter and you want to fund a project, you might come into stumble upon this one. And this one page. And what you might do then is you might click connect, in which you can then connect, authenticate with Twitter, and that will sort of tie you with your Twitter profile that you can then access by clicking on the Twitter icon. So I think that's said quite a lot there already. Do you guys have any questions on this already, or happy to kind of continue on?
I think you can carry on and get us a bit deeper.
Awesome. Sounds good. So we have this is sort of the first user logging in might actually see from the main page, might see the project list. So they will see, the list of all the projects that are asking for funding, and you also will see the list of funders sort of through time. And the idea here is really we want to show that a live active activity of people contributing to the and providing funding to the platform and to different projects, and the recognition based on the badges that they receive. So a user may connect by starting connecting, and then you connect through Twitter. And I would love your thoughts on this, guys, because I know. Sorry, I'm getting calls. So we are open to thinking about potentially other means of connecting, like LNURL being an interesting one as well. We're looking into that, but initially we're thinking Twitter, since it would help us really leverage identities that are creating on Twitter, and also prevent not only spam but also kind of bad users. I think this is kind of what we're thinking. That the social layer is important, that when you know who others are on Twitter, and that may be pseudonymous, you are more likely to act in a non-troll kind of way, and therefore hopefully the social layer will help us kind of limit the amount of the lack of a need of moderation and so forth. So user may log in with Twitter, in which case we have Stelios here, who is logged in, and they may be able to also click on view more projects, and they see more projects. Obviously, we also have the mobile UIs, but they still have a bit of work to do. But they'll divide the components between project and activity. You'll be able to, so it kind of really works like a web app. So you see, you can go into the menu and see more information, and you can sort of scroll through the different project lists, and then you can click on an actual project. And this is the case in which the project has just been created by MetaMic, and actually in this case you might have a user who is still pending. So because in this case, the creator has created a project for somebody else's tweet, right? And the owner of the tweet will have to accept this this project. And how you do that is the project owner will see the list of his projects, and as soon as they land here, they will have to accept the project. And there's a sort of, we decided we're making the decision of the user having 1 month. So the project owner having 1 month to accept the project. If not, it will sort of self-destruct, and the funds that have been sent to create the project will be sent back. But maybe I'm jumping a little bit ahead of myself. The creation of a project is probably a really important thing to discuss here. So if you are coming from the outside that you're not connected, this is where you'll be asked to connect. So if you're clicking start a project, you'll have to connect it to Twitter, and you will be sent to this page, which is the project creation page. In this case here, you will have to add a project title, and the tweet is going to be sticking there. Sort of the funds are attached to the tweet here, and you will be able to add an about and add photos. And this is where you might use the Medium API, the Medium library. And yeah, so you have to add a certain amount of Satoshi in order to create the project. And this is to kind of prevent spam and sort of bad project. We want so the reason. So you might ask me, so why am I creating a project for someone else, right? So in part, we believe eventually, you might really want to create a project for your own tweet, really. But if you don't know about this platform, if you don't know that you could get funding through a tweet, then anyone who does know the project could create a project for you. And in this case, we might see an interesting dynamic of people creating projects for somebody else's ideas. But the interesting thing, though, is that we gave the ownership of the project to the person who thought about the idea, who tweeted it out, right? So if you create a project, you are creating a project on behalf of someone else for someone else. So you're actually funding them already and kind of really getting them started, getting them kick-started into the idea. I might also say that I'm very conscious that Twitter is going to enable Lightning payments and tipping. But we kind of don't see that as a mutual exclusive to what we're doing. We really try to see this as a platform for sort of keeping track of funding ideas, right? So going forward, you send the 200 satoshis and you create a project, and the project will be in pending mode. You'll be successfully creating a project, but it'll be pending until the owner kind of accepts it. So so in this case, again, it would be pending. Sorry, it's a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so what you're really seeing here is a platform that uses the Lightning Network, that also uses the social layer that has been created through Twitter and the amazing Twitter APIs that help us tie identities to people. And that really, at the end of the day, in terms of the value proposition, we're helping funders keep track of projects they fund, also be rewarded for having funded a project, but also for creators of projects, not creators, but for the owners of projects to keep track of who is supporting them, and in the future reward them in many different ways that at the moment are not still in the MVP. But really it's trying to create a place where for keeping track of funding amounts and keeping track of projects in a way that Twitter alone will not be able to do with tips. Also because what we're doing here is funding not necessarily an identity, but a tweet. Right? We really want to try to focus on Brandon's tweet around building a hut in El Salvador, right? So it's not necessarily tied to a person or an identity, it's tied to an idea. And yeah, we want to try to get the idea kicked off off the ground and into a real one, and we want to enable anyone to kick that off. That is not even necessarily the person who makes the tweet.
Just to butt in quickly to make sure questions get answered in the chat. Daniel asked, does there need to be a tweet for a project to be created?
I'm sorry, does need to be what?
I guess I can jump in here and ask the question in real life. So basically, as you were going through it, the project creation in that particular Figma file, there is a tweet in the project description, and I was wondering if does a project need to start with a tweet that already exists, or can you create a project completely separate from the tweet?
Yeah, it's a really good question,
and
that's a really good question. The quick answer is yes. We do want to have a tweet associated to the project. And I recognize that to some extent that may seem limiting, like we are in some way already pigeonholing ourselves. We're pigeonholing ourselves to potentially anything, right? At the same time, it's a use case that enables us to leverage and attach ourselves on Twitter's amazing kind of identity network that has been created socially, and in some way, in the future, we're not necessarily tied to that idea, and we could think about opening it up as well. Yeah, sort of that's sort of the 2 cents.
That makes sense. I understand now. I guess everything you presented makes it very, very clear that you have an incredibly tight connection with Twitter. I guess some questions that popped up in my mind was that, does the target audience, the eventual receivers of these funds, for example, this hut in El Salvador, is it likely that target group are on Twitter? I mean, I guess you've done all this thinking already, but those are just questions that popped up in my mind. That it's Twitter is it's kind of it's a bit of a bubble.
For sure.
But yeah, it was just, you don't have to answer that. It was just something I
think it's a great question. It's a great question, and I think we're really open to anything in the future. I think starting sort of like the belief that you kind of want to start on something that you know can work in a very kind of in a particular use case, and then you can expand forward, right? Because you might say, we really are sort of focusing here and narrowing ourselves into the the Bitcoin crypto Twitter community. Like it's quite obvious. Not only are we using Lightning, but we are on Twitter, right? On the other hand, if we go beyond Twitter, we're still using Lightning. It's still Bitcoin only, right? It's not, we're not allowing at the moment USD payments or funding. It's entirely Lightning. So in any case, we are narrow, and we know we are narrow. And I think the business kind of strategy there, the belief is that in the next 4 to 5 years, we will be, Lightning will achieve a renaissance, and there will be millions, if not billions, of users already using on Lightning. And so Lightning will not be an arrow anymore. In terms of the Twitter thing, that's something that we can, that we can tweak. That's something that we can experiment. That is by not necessarily tying it to a tweet anymore.
Yeah, I can see that you get a lot of benefits as well, though, from being so connected to Twitter. Mainly the whole kind of authenticity part of it, right? Like, you can kind of piggyback on the reputation people have built up on Twitter to get most people to believe that, okay, this project is probably reputable because it's the ambassador is Pomp, etc., etc. So I can understand you have benefits too. I had mostly otherwise fairly small sort of design related comments that I don't think is worth telling everybody. I can just write them down and post them in the Slack.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. But yeah, sort of maybe just to kind of tackle that, I think again about Twitter, I think there could be ways that we could still leverage Twitter without leveraging a tweet necessarily. I just kind of think that there's so much potential. I sort of think that a lot of, I think, and this is kind of goes back to what Twitter is and what I think Twitter is. And Twitter is an incredible tool, as much as all of us may have a love-hate relationship with it. Because just so many times there are so many interesting ideas that get said, right? And then it sort of stays there as an idea. And so I thought, what if there was a way to take those ideas and sort of push them off the ground just a little bit, right? What if, a way for us to make them a little bit more real, right? And therefore that's sort of how the idea started. And this has been only a project that's been going for around 2 months. So I'm 100% open to sort of modify it as we go as well. And maybe that one way might be a way, which is making tweets not necessarily mandatory. But I think for now it sort of makes sense based on where the community is, and kind of keeping it kind of condensed. But yeah, I really appreciate your thoughts though. Really interesting. Yeah, so I mean, maybe I'll kind of continue on into the frame of funding a project. So you're here and you are, click on funding a project, and you get sent on this page where you can decide the amount. You can comment. You can also fund anonymously or via logging in. And if you fund with a username, you'll have to connect. Sorry if a few images here are missing. And then if you put in the amount, you will see automatically like the badge that you receive for funding that certain amount. Fund the project, you get the QR code and you scan it via the QR code, and your username will appear. You'll appear here, or you'll appear as Satoshi. The mobile view is a little bit different in the sense that it's kind of like the landing page. You have the project view, which is the project, and you can click on the activity and you see the activity that is associated to the project. And yeah, this is sort of something I'm a little bit, I don't know, struggling with, but sort of thinking about. I'm not sure if this is the best kind of implementation, but it's kind of annoying having to scroll down forever, So I sort of thought, what if we had this modal sort of view left to right, sort of helps to keep things a little bit more organized. But yeah, we'll love any of your thoughts.
Hey, I have a question that's not so UI specific. Oh, Alexa, go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay, Christoph. I think
Okay.
I think you're welcome to start this off since you're back.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so as I was thinking about this, and I see the hut in El Salvador, I'm thinking about like, what's the best type of project, the best type of group dynamic that could happen on this platform. The hut in El Salvador is, I don't know what you would call that project. It's a one-off. It's kind of a bigger thing for most people. It's something built in a different country, probably. There might be other projects. Somebody wants, I don't know, some web design done. I don't know. I just don't know. So somebody wants a new recipe for something. Could be all kinds of, like, what are the types of projects in general that that people want, that people ask for, where other people respond, and where those dynamics and the type of project lend itself to this platform, where it's very likely that it flourishes into something. I'm just curious if you've thought through some of those different use cases and thought through maybe some of the interactions that could happen here and what could go wrong and what could go well, and all that?
Absolutely. That's a really, really good question. And we've been sort of scanning Twitter for all sorts of different project-related activity, and we found a few. I can sort of bring out now, but we found things that are related to kind of the creative industry, so creating kind of comics around Bitcoin, and donations. Right, we all know Bitcoin Smile. In fact, this project started a few months, a month and a half before Bitcoin Smiles, and it was awesome to see that there was so much engagement with it, and it helped really for us. It helps us see that there was a use case for this, right? And I think what we're trying to do is really kind of building that further to anyone, though, right? Anyone without a coding or background or necessarily a website can use Geyser to host a project and get funded for it. You have kind of things that are more related to kind of coding and kind of open source, kind of helping engineers get supported. As in some examples, you've got travel related things. We've been I don't know if you've seen Paco de India. We actually just got in contact with him, and he's happy to be using Geyser to support his travels around the world. He'll be traveling to 40 different countries, and Geyser will be helping him to get funding and to raise funds to travel in certain specific countries. So we're happy to announce that that's sort of a partnership that has taken place. And you've got more like entrepreneurial projects where you've got Ismail as a rock star in El Zonte, and he wants to wants to start a business on surfing lifestyle, right? So you could either do what Brecky did here and kind of add a QR code and support him, or you might use Geyser, where you can keep track of where the project is going. You can see how much he's raised. You can see how many other people have raised. You can see that Brecky also is an ambassador for the project, right? Sort of creating a kind of organization in funding, curating, and keeping track of projects as they go throughout their life cycle. Now, obviously, you will have noticed that it's all Bitcoin related, right? So obviously it's Lightning, it's Bitcoin. It will be Bitcoin niche initially, but we have the belief that in the next 4 or 5 years we will see global adoption. And if that is true, then we can obviously any project can be created. So yeah, to answer your question again, I think several different types of projects, from entrepreneurial to travel related to donations, to kind of creative industry and kind of arts and crafts. Basically quite a few different projects, and I'm kind of curious myself to see which ones will take off more than others. And I'm also, though, need to think about and do a little bit of research on the regulatory side. I know that donations can be particular. So funding kind of development and sort of charity projects might need to be think about a little bit and look into a little bit more carefully.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you, Mick, for showing this project today. Let me see if I understood right. What you have created is the possibility of someone that notices a need on Twitter to start a campaign where the funds go directly to whoever it is that kind of pointed out that need, right? So you have you can like select any tweet or anyone that could need something online, whether it's support for a project or any of the other things that you have mentioned.
Yeah,
that way
that's
they
right.
can get funds.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's a really good way of framing it, right? As a need and supporting a campaign, cause, or we're calling it a project, but yeah, you might as well call it a campaign or campaign. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And so the idea is that you can create one for any tweet existing out there, essentially. So hopefully this helps us initially kind of grow it, right? Because somebody may have a really cool idea and may have just sent out a tweet, and little would they know that we take their tweet and we create a fund for it, right? So sometimes the idea generators are not necessarily the generators of ideas are not necessarily the doers. This helps people who have ideas out there to then get it out into the doing phase, because somebody else is starting it out. It's sort of starting that, kind of putting it out there. Now obviously the owner of the tweet, if they don't do anything, the project will be canceled in 1 month time. So that sort of doesn't create necessarily a have to, but it sort of gives them the opportunity to really start it off.
Yeah, that is a good thing to have there. I think it's an interesting way of getting a community involved in something, and I'd like to kind of see where this goes. I think it's interesting well, I'm sure that as an anthropologist, this is kind of the social aspect of it. Like, how do you tie both together and make a difference, right? Is there something in particular that you're hoping to see, or that I don't know, you're hoping this will grow into?
Mm-hmm. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think the social layer is really interesting, honestly, and I think it's sort of to answer the first question. If you look at things like microfunding, right, that is so popular now in development sectors, it's really backed by social trust, right? And as Bitcoiners, we often say, don't trust, verify, blah, blah, blah. And absolutely, it's true technically, right? But at the end of the day, we usually tend to trust one another if we know who the other is and who the other is. Then we slowly start off from a place of lack of trust to, as we engage with somebody, we develop more and more of that trust. And so this is saying, if we could try to trust some other people, if we do trust those people that are on Twitter, then we can engage in a gifting kind of relationship on here to help kind of spark ideas into existence. And this is where the social trust can be leveraged for good, right? And in terms of so I think maybe that's the anthropology coming in here. And then the idea of where I would like it to go is I have no idea. I just, in fact, this is the specific tweet by Brandon was a sort of catalyzed my thinking about this idea, this Geyser. And so yeah, maybe seeing this hut in El Salvador getting funded could be a really good start. Naturally, this sort of still raises question, right? Because if we fund this tweet, what happens next, right? And to that, I have no idea, right? We're just trying to raise, I don't know, $500, $1,000, however amount we want. And then the next step is, okay, so how do we actually implement it? And this is where, if the project goes forward, we can think about different ways of doing that. We can think about adding not just the creator of a project or the owner of a project, but adding another role, which is the receiver of a project. So we might think about enabling users to send out satoshis to a receiver that everyone can see here. You might have it here: project owner, ambassador, and receiver. And that may be I don't know, like a construction company in El Salvador, right? Or something like that. So yeah, sort of becoming a place where ideas come in and they come out into implementation of those ideas.
Thank you. And one last question.
Yeah.
Why Geyser?
Yeah, good question. I think we're living in this moment now of all these renewable energies being associated to Bitcoin, from volcanoes to solar panels and et cetera. So Geyser was another one of those where it's another untapped resource from nature. And again, that's associated to Bitcoin. But I think primarily it's something that lifts you up, right? It's sort of that kind of with all the force of pressure, a project gets sort of lifted and thrown into existence. And I just love the sort of the power of this natural phenomena. And I sort of think that because of the crowds and the numbers of the crowds can really push projects into the stratosphere in very little amount of time. I don't know if you've heard, you guys, about the Reddit group of 3 million Reddit users that wants to buy $30 of Bitcoin and tomorrow, the 7th of September. And if they do that with just a small action, they can probably make Bitcoin jump to a massive amount just by buying $30 each. And so this is a similar idea. It's the pressure exerted through the crowds to make something happen. And to the credit of Stelios, who is here today, he actually thought of this idea, and I loved it, and we went ahead with it. But yeah, really good question, guys, and I'm really loving them. I love the sort of challenging my thinking, our thinking here. And I think another point, like, we're also very flexible. We're open to seeing more contribution happen and open to any other ideas. So yeah, loving the simulation though.
I would have another question, if I may ask.
Please.
Do you think about like a custodial service or a completely non-custodial?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And our kind of our direction is, and our ethos is definitely very much non-custodial. We want to make sure that users have their funds and have ownership over them. We don't want responsibility. At the same time, because of the certain design decisions we made and the fact that we want to send funds back if funds are not being created, are not being accepted, we will have to start in a custodial way. We're also super open and super willing to have our minds change. It's just to enable that degree of flexibility of moving funds back to the funders if needed. This is sort of the decision we've taken, and yeah, we'll love to be challenged as well if you guys have better thoughts or concerns around this decision.
Is the sending of the funds back just because the creator hasn't accepted it yet?
Yeah, that is a primary reason. Yes.
Could you make it so that the campaign isn't online until the creator accepts it, and then you don't have to worry about sending the funds back?
Yeah, that is a good idea as well. I will let Stelios also jump in here because I think he has some other thoughts around the custodial solution. I'm not sure if Stelios, if you're here. He may be out. Yeah, there's an. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that some projects don't have like a fixed cap as well. Maybe they're just raising money for a certain amount of time, and it's fine for them to not reach whatever the total is.
So we are thinking about it two ways, right? So you can either not have a goal, in which case you can withdraw the funds all at the same time. And then secondly, or you can add a goal to the project, in which case you'll be able to withdraw them, at any time, but withdraw only once. So once you withdraw, you withdraw all the funds. And the reason for that is just we just needed to build something quick as an MVP, and we're willing to sort of play with that and tweak that. But yeah, initially, sort of you can create a project. You can withdraw the funds, but you're going to have to withdraw all the funds. And also another reason why we chose with the custodial is that this gives us a lot of more visibility on the amount that is being funded. I think we'd have some trouble understanding how much has been funded if we go down the non-custodial route, I believe.
Okay. Connor has a question here in the chat. I see Twitter is mainly used on mobile, but these designs seems more suited for desktop web. Yeah, that was from Connor.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, this is sort of the fact that we have. I mean, the designs are also available and viewable, and the app is viewable on mobile. Here are the mobile views, which have been which had to go through a change because, like Connor says, this particular window is very much desktop friendly, but not so much mobile. So we went ahead and sort of divided the gray from the white area. So hopefully this answers the question. But yeah, I haven't fully sketched out all the mobile views just yet. That's also the problem.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, the project looks pretty cool. There are some like it may take like a bit more like on the technical side to achieve it, to be able to figure out like how, like if an invoice was successfully paid and whatnot. But maybe you could speak with Boomi about this. We were just talking about this very problem actually. And
really, for non-custodial.
Non-custodial, yeah.
Really? So there may be technical solutions to that.
Yeah, it's it'll probably take like some time for adoption or whatnot, but I think
fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Yeah, we're ready for that. Like as soon as it's ready, then we're ready.
Well, it's more along the lines of like creating like some API standards that attach to LNURL, which other people implement. So if you implement it, then you'll be able to and then if you get your users to implement it, then it will be what do you call it?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's more sort of something that's still happening within the technical conversations as a sort of at the protocol layer. Is that it, or something that we could already do?
No, it's on the application layer. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. On the application layer, on the AP, like web, like as a web service, you just need I think the missing component is being able to query if an invoice is paid or not, as Boomi was explaining to me. But you should probably have a chat with him about it. He'll be able to give you a bit more details.
Sorry, who did you say I should chat to?
Boomi, Bumi.
Boomi, awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Right.
And sorry, who what's your name? Because I can't see who's speaking at the moment.
Oh, I'm Mr. No Face.
Mr. No Face. Got it. Thank you so much.
And that's John's, by the way.
Okay.
Alexi, doxing me. What's wrong with you? You see this?
I am doxing yes, a little bit. So
there we go.
who you talking to? All right. Hey, there's also another question on the chat by Patricia. She says, the more I work with merchants and individuals, the more I see how much more education we need. I love the emphasis on Lightning. Honestly, I don't know that most users really have a deep awareness of it or of wallets that support it. Is there some kind of initial effort to help folks get or stay informed?
Yeah, really good question. And again, it goes back to the fact that we are, Lightning, Lightning only. I guess I'll take this question as sort of what can we do to inform the users about Lightning, right? What do we need to do to explain what Lightning is and how it works? And it's a really good question. I think it's something that I'll have to take back and reflect on. I think, obviously, if a user has never heard of Lightning and comes on this page, they'll say, what is this symbol here? Is it a Japanese symbol? Is it a Japanese currency or something? So definitely, we're gonna have to do something to make sure that people understand that this is Bitcoin. These are Satoshis from the very beginning. And yeah, I think for sure in the funding section. So as people go through the funding, we want to maybe clarify here that funding happens in Satoshis. I think it was Light Night or oh yeah, it's the NFT wallet on Liquid called Elixir, that they have a very, very user-friendly hover view. So if you hover over some of the information, you really get a really big pop-up that really explains what something is. So I'm thinking maybe that might be a good step forward initially, a hover view.
Yeah, I don't know how well you guys can hear me. My internet's not great. My computer's fan is like so loud right now. I'm sorry.
You're great, actually.
We actually had a meeting that was really great about this recently, so I feel like I'm getting even more information. And just hearing some of the things, this is amazing and super optimistic. And I think being optimistic is really important if you're building things. But when I hear like mass adoption in 5 years, and we kind of talked about this in our last meeting, I don't think if we're talking about scaling, everyone's going to run a node. I just don't know if that's realistic, and people don't necessarily have like the means or capacity to do that. So yeah, I just wonder, like, we can't help everyone run a node. We can't help everyone fully understand it in a way that like we're obsessively understanding this, but perhaps part of an onboarding experience might include information about Lightning. I feel like you want it to, from what I'm hearing, it's like this, you want like billions of people to have access, which is like very generous, and your heart's in the right place. I just want them to be able to understand. Like, I don't know, Alexa and I were meeting with someone recently for a campaign we're doing, and I don't know that everyone knows like what wallets do, or that they are compatible with Lightning, or that they're even a Bitcoin wallet to begin with. They just know like, oh, this is cryptocurrency and I have it, and I think I own this, but it's on an exchange, and it's so complicated, right? So making these design decisions is like very tricky, because how can you gauge how billions of people will understand this? And I know you'll figure it out, but I'm just kind of curious where your mind's at with helping folks understand it,
For sure. No, it's agreed. I think though we need to kind of maybe one helpful way of saying that is kind of dividing that as two different things, right? There's mass adoption, and then there is technical understanding of things, right? I agree that actually I wouldn't expect the billions of people to be onboarded to have to try to understand the technology necessarily. And maybe the future is not a Bitcoin future, but is well, it's a Bitcoin future, but maybe where Bitcoin is a base layer, but not necessarily the what users receive, right? So what Strike has done so beautifully is that everything is USD based, USD denominated, but the network is the Bitcoin network, right? Just but we don't have that capability, so we've had to kind of make the decision and just go on with Lightning, and so that's why you see the Bitcoin as being the unit of account here, which is something a bit ridiculous. Like, who does that, right? This is very ambitious in that sense. But we are also I think as this goes forward, we do want to try to make this as accessible as possible and make users use their dollars or their pesos or their Japanese yen as well. And so it's going to be about the economy that rises with us, right? So this is what's available now in terms of in a very sort of buildable product in a very, very tight deadline, and with limited resources. But as the economy, as a Lightning ecosystem emerges, and we'll start seeing very, very easy integration with fiat on ramps and off ramps with Lightning, then we can make this as easy as possible, right? At the moment, it's a product for Bitcoiners, kind of, right? And this is a testing ground for what could be in the future, right? So I don't necessarily see this as being a product for billions of people. I'm not that optimistic, I would say, but I see this as a first stepping stone to then build something that is more and more usable for anyone. just like now you have Sphinx and you have Zion and you have all these different products that are so complex to use, but have big ambitions to go and become much more streamlined in the future to the mass market. So yeah, hopefully that sort of answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. I think it kind of does. I mean, it definitely helps to understand like who the initial users are and how you'll like research and beta test it. Though I think still like there's different levels of people like in our community who you might think you understand Lightning, but like there's things I don't understand, and I'm not too proud to recognize that. Like
Absolutely.
I don't think everyone has the same
Absolutely.
foundation, right? So it might be good to just even do like a super basic onboarding. I don't know. That's what I would think. If it's repetitive for some people, they can just skip it. If it's not,
I love it. No, I love the idea. That's really, really great feedback. I actually hadn't thought of that, but that is very important. I have it here in the notes.
Building on the two last comments. So one about, is it possible to sort of fund these projects before the owner, the eventual owner, has claimed them and connected a wallet to them? And the second one, imagine this is super successful and you get the whole of Twitter wanting to fund projects. If that is successful, you're likely to have a lot of people that want to claim these projects that are totally new to this ecosystem, right? So that, Patricia's comments about onboarding might also go for the sort of claimers if this is successful. So that's kind of an ideal scenario, right? Like, oh, there's money to be had here. All you need to do is kind of verify yourself via Twitter and then, claim the money. That's a very strong incentive, for those people to actually join.
Exactly. So I think that's what we're planning at the moment, which is if I create a project for your tweet, for example, anyone can still fund it. It just won't be. But if you don't claim it, then all the funds will be sent back to the funders. So you might have this exactly raises the incentive to claim it, because if you have 10,000 sats. Within a month time, then obviously it's a better incentive to go on it and claim it. Exactly. Awesome. Cool. This has been really, really helpful, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, usually Connor, you're here. Usually he's the one who wraps it up when we head towards the hour, which we are right now.
He's having problems with his mic.
Okay. Yeah, he's surprisingly quiet today. Yeah, thank you for presenting the project. What are your next steps? Is this already in development? Are you beta testing, or where are you right now?
Yeah, it's crazy to say, but yeah, we are. Well, Stelios has done an amazing job building a lot of the backend, and the backend is kind of there already. We are now. We have another member of the team, Sazal, based in Nepal, and we all met online through Twitter, and it's amazing to be part of this community that where this is possible. So. But yeah, he's now going sort of building the front end. Sort of as soon as now, I think today was really the testing ground for us. It was like we have the designs, we got the Bitcoin design community to give us their thoughts and their feedback, and now we're ready to start building the front end. I think it's probably a little bit ambitious, but we plan to kind of in the next month. Have a very, very simple kind of bootstrapped site with just the projects page. So we will not have the list page, but we'll just have the projects page with 1 or 2 or 3 potential projects that might be interested in doing an alpha or beta. And then once we have that, yeah, hopefully will be out then in around a month's time, in a very kind of bootstrapped way. But that will enable us to get feedback and grow further and learn. And then, yeah, hopefully we're also in the talks of being an accelerator. We are in the last round of being accepted in this accelerator based in the Netherlands, which would provide us with a lot of support, not financial, but like technical and, well, not even that technical, but more legal and kind of administrative. So, and that would be in January. So we're waiting to see how that goes. Guys, but the truth is, we're also waiting on the regulation side. We're really, I'm kind of feeling the burn, like, trying to build something that can actually go out in production, that is at the same time kind of legal and compliant with the laws. It's something I'm a little bit, it's something I am a little bit worried about. And so we're thinking deeply around where to do that and where to incorporate and where to have something that is, yeah.
Were you there for the OpenSats presentation a few months ago?
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Because I mean, you could contact Ben, because I'm pretty sure they also talked about the same problems around donations and distributing money and handling money for projects temporarily and all of that. That team might be some people to talk to.
That's right. I was in the presentation. I didn't remember that part of the regulation, but now that you talk about it, yes. Ben from Open, yeah.
I'm curious how they're doing. I haven't caught up with them with OpenSats recently. But yeah, it seems like it connects a little bit with a browser extension, paying through a website, OpenSats. Yeah, you might be able to learn or connect with some similar-minded folks there.
For sure. Yeah, it's very, very aligned.
I'm not a Bitcoin developer, just a designer, but in some respects, I'm wondering if this problem with, the custodial versus non-custodial, would this actually be easier on-chain, layer one? Because you could create some sort of time-gapped multi-sig, right, that would automatically return the money after a certain time, and you and the original creator, as in you the platform, and the original creator would be the multi-signatures, to change the ownership or add someone that could withdraw the money here. I know that seems like vaguely doable, probably extremely expensive and complicated, but I was just reminded of like, Lightning doesn't solve all the problems.
I know. Well, I think the answer is yet, right? Because you're absolutely right. Like, there's no multi-sigs on Lightning yet. But I don't know. We're believers. We're sort of hoping that the tide will rise all boats here, and things like multi-sig will be enabled. But then we also have things like hash time locked contract, HTLCs, TLCs coming up as well, which means that we could create something like that on Lightning with oracles, and we could be oracles or so there's some interesting stuff that we can leverage going forward into a protocol. And yeah, I'm also not a super technical person, but I know that the Lightning space is growing so much and the potential is huge that we're sort of really just putting ourselves there in a very, very small way, but potential is really good to expand it further in the future.
Guys, can you hear me now? I've refreshed it. Oh, awesome. Well, thanks, Mick, for all this presentation. You did great. And thanks, everyone, for your feedback. So since it's a bit of a tech question here, so I kind of want to jump in to say what we're planning to do for returning the funds, and that's using LNURL and LNURL withdraw. So they have one of these protocols where you can just scan a QR code and redeem some funds. So when someone funds a project and we keep track of that, eventually, if they want to retract that funding, we can just generate a QR code for them, and then they use that to redeem it, right? And that's still through Lightning. And indeed, the on-chain would be probably too costly, and we don't want to do all these transactions and say you have 10,000 funders or something, and then you do 10,000 small returns. That would be extremely costly, probably, or at least a hassle to put together. So we think it's like probably a kind of a good compromise to have LNURL withdraw, even though it involves a user action, an extra user action. But I think if it's to get their funds back, they're probably willing to take that. And if not, we will probably follow the scars.city model, where if someone doesn't claim it, you just donate it to some developer fund or something like that, or another project maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious if, especially for early testing, if you could reduce a lot of this legal and all these other issues, if you just focus on really small projects, things that can be done in a week, and where the maximum commitment is $1 or maximum you can fund is $50 or so, where it's so small that it goes under the radar in a way. And I don't know, with donation, I think there are also certain limits, where only over certain limits it's a problem.
I think that's a really good point. That is a really good point. I think, and I've been thinking as well, like, what if we just said that every project can fund a maximum of, or not only a maximum, but maybe that standard amount of, I don't know, $5,000, right? Exactly. Like, in theory, asking for, I don't know, 50 or 500 Bitcoin, that might start getting, raising some eyebrows. So yeah, I think it's a really good point. Maybe we should definitely create a limit so that we really cannot enable things like money laundering.
Cool. Anything else you'd like to talk about? Any other questions anyone has for Mick and Stelios?
Maybe just what were to happen if tweet was deleted? Would that affect your system, or would you still be able to keep it there?
Yeah, so I think we're open to different views. I think what we'll do is still have a copy of the content and still have the tweet up. So I mean, if somebody wants to delete the project and they're the owners, they can still delete the project through the platform. So we don't believe they would delete it just for the project. So in that case, yeah, we would keep the funds there. The project will still be running, but just instead of having the tweet embed, we would maybe have the copy of the text.
Cool. Any other questions?
Good question, though. That's a tricky scenario there.
Well, it's unlikely to happen, like you said, but just in case.
No, for sure. And another one is what happens if the owner of a tweet sort of deletes his account. I think that's even more tricky because the owner is tied to the fund. So in that case, we'll probably give the funds back to the funders.
Would it also happen if they switch their handle?
That is a good question, actually. That is a good question. I think in that case we would we need to think about it. But I think unfortunately in that case we could probably have a tweeter. Actually, I think we don't have a problem with that because Twitter APIs would enable us to correct that, if I'm not mistaken.
We have the user ID to keep track of. So you
great.
can switch your handle, but you can't switch the Twitter
that's
ID.
Right. That's what I thought. Right. Good.
And also, we would like to enable LNURL auth maybe at some point. We really love this idea of authenticating through Lightning, and we've had this discussion a few times with Mick because it comes with its own kind of problems around. We would like to leverage the social network aspect, and so we want to have Twitter in there, and just enabling LNURL auth would be a problem. But adding it on top of Twitter could be a nice way to redeem your account again, even if Twitter blocks you. We don't want to be completely dependent on Twitter either. We would like to keep that option open.
Well, for that, I think Well, I'm sorry, Mr. No Face. I didn't realize you had a new identity there. He's actually got a question of perhaps consider connecting with Mastodon. So that would also be something that you could try. There's a...
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, Mastodon being the Twitter-like thing, right? The Twitter-like app.
It's like a decentralized social media, right? Like an alternative. Right. And there is a Bitcoiner community there, I think.
That's right. No, it's a good idea. We'll definitely look into that. I'm not super familiar with it, but yeah.
Yeah, cool. Already? Any other questions, or should we wrap up and then keep talking on Slack? Cool.
Well, awesome. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Super appreciated. We'll try to set up another maybe design review maybe once we're out in a month or so. Really, really appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for presenting. Good luck.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Now a question. Who was recording this call? Whoever did it needs to stop now.
That was me.
Okay.
And this was design review number. I'm not so sure. This is Mr. No Face signing off.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.